Andrew Brunette addresses the elephant in the room, and the Nashville Predators play another must-win game tonight. We'll break down both on today's episode of the Locked On Predators podcast.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Tuesday, everyone. Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We are, of course, your free Monday through Friday Nashville Predators podcast. We're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off this game day episode welcoming any first-time listeners, and of course, giving that shout out to our Locked On Predators insiders and to our everydayers. We love getting together and talking through Nashville Predators hockey with you. I'm Ann Kimmel. I am a writer with Penalty Box Radio, and my friends, I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Emma Lingen, and I'm the Predators site editor and reporter for the Hockey News.
Well, after practice yesterday, Andrew Brunette addressed the rumblings about his job security. We're going to share his comments with you. We're also going to talk about what Roman Josi had to say about the team's performance, and we're going to preview what has to be a must-win game for the Nashville Predators tonight against the Calgary Flames. Before we dive into all that we have to talk about, do want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Well, Emma, it's not like there's a shortage of things to talk about when you cover the Nashville Predators these days.
I just wish there were more fun things to talk about, but yes, you're right.
I almost feel like I can't remember the last time we did a win game recap.
I sure can't.
It's been 84 years.
It has.
Yeah, it has. And today's episode, we're still wading into the dicey stuff, y'all, because Andrew Brunette was, of course, asked about what we can only call the elephant in the room. Is he worried about his job? Is he going to be the coach of the Nashville Predators after tonight's game? Is he going to be the coach of the Nashville Predators come Christmas time, which is the timeline that Barry Trotz originally had set out? I just don't think there is a coach right now in the NHL whose seat is warmer than Andrew Brunette's, at least according to the fan base, Emma.
According to the fan base, it's scorching hot, if you ask a lot of fans. But I think that, again, we've said before, and this is not an argument for or against firing him. It's just, frankly, the facts that if Barry Trotz decides to pull the plug on Andrew Brunette, that reflects poorly on him as well, on Trotz, because again, he hired this coach as his guy when he still had a coach under contract in John Hines. And he went on record saying he would not have done that. He didn't just make a change just so he could bring in his own guy. He just really believed that this was the right guy for the job. So again, my brain tells me that this doesn't fall squarely on Andrew Brunette, but my gut tells me that the way things go here, like in hockey, there's got to be something drastic. And with the way that this roster is constructed, there's not a whole lot of drastic that can be done.
Yeah. It's interesting to me how quickly the narrative about Barry Trotz has changed with this start, because you look at preseason and you have him as like one of the top candidates for GM of the Year award. You look back when he took over and he made the exact move you're talking about. He hired Andrew Brunette and terminated the contract with John Hines, and you would think that he was Glinda the Good Witch in the bubble with the fan base. He signed Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault, Brady Shea all on July 1st. July 2nd, it was literally like rename it Barry Trotz Town, baby. And 28 games into the season, with the way things are going. Not only is the fan base sort of about Andrew Brunette, Barry Trotz is taking a lot of heat. And here's the thing, no matter what he does with Andrew Brunette, you're right, Barry Trotz he's in a bit of a pickle, for lack of a better word. Like, this was his guy. Was he wrong? That doesn't reflect well, like you said. If he sticks with it and things don't turn around and the fan base doesn't see what it wants to see in progress, then Barry Trotz just wasn't willing to admit he made a mistake. So this is dicey times, y'all. It is dicey times for the Nashville Predators and leadership of this team all the way around. Of course, yesterday after practice, Andrew Brunette was straight asked about job security. This is what his answer was. We're going to play it for you, and then we're going to break down what we think he was really saying.
I think in our business we're terminal, in my business anyways, and it's just like all of us in life. I don't think we overly concerned about it. When it happens, it happens. In saying that, it is what it is. I'm looking forward to tomorrow's game. I think something's bound to break, and hopefully it breaks tomorrow.
If you talk to Barry, but you talk to Barry a lot, right? I'm sure.
Yeah.
Like, things like that, does that come up or?
Things like what? My job?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure it comes up every day. I don't really spend a whole lot of time. I just worried about the present. I'm worried about doing the best job I can do. I'm worried about helping this team, and I feel, there's certain nights that we left some things on the board. It could be a totally different story sitting here talking to you today, but we are where we're at, and all we can do is focus on tomorrow.
What did you take away from that conversation with Andrew Brunette, Emma?
Well, first of all, no matter whether you think he should be fired or not, I think you got to feel for the guy, because can you imagine, just being asked like, hey, so do you think you're going to get fired anytime soon?
Yeah.
Like, it's not fun. It's not fun. And of course he's aware of those, the rumors, as much as these guys like to say that they don't pay attention to the media, or it's kind of impossible in today's world. And so they're certainly aware, but I think after listening to that, I'm like, what else can he say at that point? Like,
right.
There's really nothing else he can say except, because if he came out and said like, nope, I'm not going anywhere, this is my job, then he looks arrogant. But if he expresses doubt, like, well, I don't know, I hope I'm still here, then that, kind of instills a lot of uneasiness and fear and panic. And so it's like, what else is he supposed to say? I think he handled it as well as he could have, but that's the approach that you have to have as a coach, is taking it one day at a time. And like
right.
he said, he talked about wanting to, kind of get up and be able to kind of pull out of this, dig out of this, what they're in right now. And he still believes that they can do it. But he's right. It has to start with the game against Calgary. You can't go and win 20 games in one night. It's got to start with one. And so I think that it's the mindset that you have to have. But he's also right when he said we're terminal in this business. I think, we've talked about this on this show before, how NHL head coaches have such short shelf lives nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's something you have to be kind of aware of going into it, that, this kind of thing could happen.
He is in such a tough position, like you said, because he also has to model for this team the mindset that he needs from this team if they are going to get out of this. And that is one game at a time, one goal at a time, one shift at a time. And so regardless of how he is feeling, that's what he has to project. So I'm with you. Like, what do you say? There's no win. I love that he said it is what it is. We have family friends actually from Bern, Switzerland, hometown of Roman Josi, the captain. And one of them passed away, and her on kind of the obituary, it said "Es ist wie es ist," which means in Swiss German, it is what it is. what else can you say about that? It just is what it is. And while he is the coach, whether it is for another 24 hours, whether it is for another 12 hours, whether it is for another 2 or 3 seasons or beyond that, he literally has to concentrate on this Calgary game. It is very tough. I thought it was interesting that he talked about, if a few games had gone the other way. And if you really look, if Nashville had won those 6 overtime loss games, they're going to still be right where they are in the standings. They're going to be second to last. If Nashville had won their 1 goal loss games, they had 2 of them, one against the Caps and one against the Leafs, they would be 5th in the Central. But that is still closer to digging out than only having 7 wins. So I agree with you. Like, this has to start tonight. If this team wants to turn anything around, it has to start tonight against Calgary. Coming up, we are going to talk about this Calgary game. We're going to hear from Roman Josi. He's going to tell us kind of what his thoughts are on the team getting out of the slump. And we'll tell you what our thoughts are when it comes to this Calgary game. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. If you love sports, you are going to love Prize Picks. It's the best place to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Whether it is hockey, football, or any of your favorite sports, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in on the action. Here's why you need to get started today. You can win up to 200 times your money on Prize Picks. You're going to also get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. There's no need to win. That $50 is guaranteed. Prize Picks also offers fun weekly promotions like, wait for it, y'all, Taco Tuesday, where select player projections are discounted up to 25%. So download the app on today, Taco Tuesday, and use code LOCKEDONNHL, and you're going to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly. Check out all the fun and all the action at Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, Emma, it was an interesting practice yesterday. We spent some time again talking to Andrew Brunette. We just heard from him. Did not get much of a chance to talk to anybody else on the team. Media was delayed going into the locker room post-practice. By the time media was in the locker room, pretty much all of the players, except, God bless him, Roman Josi, were gone. So very limited media availability. But Roman Josi did kind of talk about what is going on. He was asked, and this is something that you and I have talked about on the show and that people have kind of commented on, is like, when's the players only meeting? Like, have you had these meetings? Usually when things are going bad, you have a players only meeting. This is what Roman Josi said. He said, yeah, we've had some meetings. There's been a lot of meetings this year, a lot of obviously talking, a lot of trying to figure out how to get out of this and trying to find solutions. We've definitely had them. So this team is working on it. They're doing some of the things that a team does when they struggle. They're having these meetings. I'm sure they're having a lot of conversations, veterans, leadership team, veterans with young players. There's a lot going on. He was also asked if maybe the expectations going into the season have played a part in the early struggles and also just trying to get out of it. And he said, obviously, our expectations were high this year and we haven't met them yet this year. But like I said, there's still a lot of trust in this team. And, we've had a rough start, but there's still a lot of hockey left. And we truly believe we can get out of this. Does he really think they can get out of this, Emma? Or is he doing the thing where he has to say the things because he's the captain?
I mean, look, I think they can get out of this. I know that that's awfully optimistic of me, but I do think that they can. Like, I'm not saying it's going to be like 2019 St. Louis Blues go win a Stanley Cup out of this, but I think that they can, I think we know that this team is not this bad. And I think that
surely no.
I think that they will. or not that they will. I think that they can pull out of this. I think the season is not entirely lost yet. It's getting close, and their path to the playoffs at least is going to be much more difficult. But I think that, when I say I think they can pull out of this, I don't, they're the second worst team in the league. I don't think they finish the season as the second worst team in the league. But again, I think you have to, like, it's partly, it could be actual belief, but I think also, like you said, he's got to say the things. He's the captain. I mean, like, if your captain's saying, like, yeah, I don't know, we're cooked, then that's not great. That's not great. It's not great leadership. It's really not, for him to say something like that. And so if you're looking to your leadership for any kind of inspiration or belief in this group, I mean, it starts there. And so I think that, he has to say that. And if he genuinely didn't believe that, then I don't think he would say it. Like, he doesn't have to say, oh yeah, we just have no faith in each other, but he could just not address that.
He could not say it.
He could just not say it, but he did. So
it was disappointing not to be able to talk to a couple of more people yesterday, just to check in. Of course, I think that there was a lot of us in media that would have liked to talk to Jonathan Marchessault. There was an article on the NHL.com about Marchessault sort of talking about being in a different role, like getting thrown out there with players that I don't normally know. And I think that we were hoping to get some clarification. I think it would have been great to maybe get the temperature for some other players, but Roman Josi, answered questions. And I agree with you. Like, they're not kidding themselves. Roman Josi owns the fact that individually these players are profoundly underperforming, and they have to turn that around, and it has to start tonight. Of course, they are hosting the Calgary Flames. The Flames are 13, 10, and 5. And we've talked about this. This feels like a must-win game, because you are going right from this game tonight at home versus Calgary to Dallas and to Colorado. And if you want to talk about some games where you really want to not only pick up points, but prevent Central Division teams from gaining more distance from you, those two games are big ones. And I think getting some momentum tonight would be huge for them. When you look at this Calgary game, Emma, what jumps out at you as something that is going to be important for Nashville if tonight is the night they want to turn things around?
Well, I think, first of all, I mean, this is probably oversimplifying it a bit, but the fact that this is a game at home and the way that the fan base feels right now, I mean, I think it's imperative you have to win in front of your home crowd.
Oh, it's going to be rough, y'all.
And so I think that you need to try and use that to your advantage and play into that. But I mean, I look at Calgary, and Calgary, the Flames kind of are what they are. I think they started off the season kind of hot, and no pun intended, but they started off the season pretty hot, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, are these guys for real? And now they've kind of come back to earth a little bit. They're 4-4-2 in their last 10. I think, this team had always kind of, well, not always, but at least recently sort of been on the, teetering on the edge of, are we rebuilding, or are we going for it with what we have, or, like, what are we going to do here? And I think that hot start to the season maybe made people think, oh no, everyone stay put, we're going to stick with what we have. But now that they're sort of starting to level out, you wonder, like, these are guys like Nazem Kadri, potentially, being dangled out as a trade chip. It feels like he is every year. And so I think that this team is, they are what they are, and they know what they are, and they're not necessarily, I don't want to say they're not playing for anything, because that's not fair to say, but I think that they're in the, like, smack in the middle of the Pacific Division. They're just a very average team right now. And I just don't think that, I mean, again, when you look at their roster, the Predators have a better roster. That's what's just so befuddling about this entire situation. But I mean, it depends, of course, who they get in goal. I mean, Dustin Wolf has had an exceptional rookie season so far, and he certainly shut the Predators down last time. So, finding new ways to beat him and just find the back of the dang net, guys.
Can we just do that? Actually asked Andrew Brunette about that and want to play his response. We were talking about, we're just having trouble scoring. This is what Andrew Brunette had to say about getting pucks into the back of the net.
I think when you put up, the attempts that we're putting up, we're getting pucks on that. Yeah, we talk about it all the time, could be inside a little bit. I think we've done a pretty good job inside right now. They're just, we're just lacking that little bit of that finish. And we all know in this game, in any game, when they're not going in, you squeeze it tighter and you think more, and you're a little bit delayed on your shot because you're thinking if that, you're trying to put it somewhere instead of just putting it on net. So there's all kinds of little things that go into that. But like I said, I think, looking at least visually and watching, we did enough those games to score more and to get points out of that trip. And I guess that's been a little bit of the story most of the year. I think we've had really good offensive zone time, top 5 in the league. We deliver a lot of pucks on top teams, and they're just not going in. We're no stickmen right now.
We kind of heard the same thing from Roman Josi, just talking about when you are struggling so much to score, whether it individually or collectively, as this team is, you do tend to delay the shot. You do tend to grip the stick a little bit too tight. And he's like, individually, we all have to fight that urge and get back to playing our game, get back to shooting the puck instead of like pausing and thinking about it. And, don't try to place the puck, just put it on net and let somebody be there. And I think Bruno's right, like get traffic in front of the net. This has to be a game where greasy goals are good enough because you're not going to be able to get any other kind at the rate that they're shooting right now. So get people to the front of the net and get going. The other area where I think it will be very interesting to watch, and this is something just, we observed at practice yesterday, they spent a lot of time working on the power play. And Calgary is 28th in the league on the penalty kill. And if Nashville can't score well at 5-on-5, for the love, score on the power play, which is not something that they have been able to do recently. But that's another opportunity in this game, specifically against the Flames. They just don't have a really strong penalty kill. And if Nashville can get a power play goal, that is huge. If you can get somebody like Stamkos or Forsberg or Marchessault to score on the power play, that's hopefully going to do something for 5-on-5 play. So there's an area for opportunity too.
Yeah, especially because, now you've got Ryan O'Reilly out week to week, and he's been a top power play guy. So now from what we saw in practice, looks like Gus Nyquist is moving up to take his spot. And but other than that, it's all the same guys. And again, like you said, they spent a lot of time working on it. That was the top unit, other than Nyquist, stays the same. That second unit looked like Brady Shea, Luke Evangelista, Tommy Novak, Fedor Svechkov, and Zach LaRue, which is fun. That's a fun one.
That.
But I pause because I don't know, will that unit ever actually see the ice?
100%. Fair. That is a fair question. Will they give them even 30 seconds of a 2-minute power play? Really, really hard to say. Emma, if there was one player that you said, look, this player really needs to step up and it will go a long way to turning this game into a win, who is that player for you for Nashville?
All of them.
I know. At this point, how picky can we be?
I think I'm going to go with Jonathan Marchessault, just because he's really, to be fair, this does not fall squarely on him. They've all struggled as of late, but his struggles have been especially apparent. It feels like, I just feel like his decision making has been questionable, and he's just had a couple really costly mistakes that are, ending up in the other team's net. And so I think that he's a guy that I don't think that's, illustrative of the player who he is, but he's, had a rough little stretch here. So he's a guy that I'd like to start seeing, make some smarter decisions with the puck. And I think that can lead to some success for this team.
Yeah, I also like that he's playing with LaRue and Svechkov.
Mm-hmm.
It would be really great to see something happen with the three of them. For me, I am desperate to see Filip Forsberg get going. He scored 1 goal since November 11th, but he is a put the team on your back kind of guy. And we just haven't seen hardly anything from him in these games. And again, I mean, we could say that the insert player name here, as far as we have not really seen much from them. But I do think Filip Forsberg is one of those people who can turn the tide in a game. And if he can get going, if he can score a goal, if he can do some Forsberg-esque things, I think this team, even something little like that, could make a big difference. This team is looking for any advantage. Coming up, we are going to talk about what happens if the Nashville Predators win tomorrow night and what could happen if they don't. We're going to wrestle with that conversation coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by our great friends at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, and it is all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play and so much more, and it is all going to be on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, you're going to get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Emma, we're gonna try to put on our prediction hats here. What do you expect from this team tomorrow night?
I don't know. That's the hard thing. Like I said, whatever episode it was where I was like, my one word, sure. I don't know. Whatever happens, they could win. They could beat the living tar out of Calgary and win like 8-2. Sure. They could get blanked 6-0. Sure. Like this team is such a mystery to me that I genuinely don't know. Like I used to have a pretty good, I feel like, handle on this team where you could almost kind of like say, well, watch, they'll probably like beat this team and lose to this one or whatever, even if it's not necessarily what logic would tell you. I feel like I kind of had a sense. This team, I have no sense. I have no idea. I have no idea. I don't know what's going to happen.
It is so weird because you're hitting the nail on the head. It is impossible to predict because at any moment, and I know most fans don't believe this and don't want to hear it, but at any moment, this could turn. I think if there are multiple issues going on with the Nashville Predators right now, but if one thing turns, I think some other things will self-correct. Is that going to happen tonight against Calgary? Sure. Like, who even knows? Here's the thing I will say. This is a restless fan base. And I really am about manners and I don't here's one thing. I don't like when opposing fans come and chant in a different building. I would never go to a different building and chant for the Predators because it's bad manners. You're not being a good guest. But I am interested in what the home crowd is going to do tomorrow night. If Nashville gives up the first goal, if Nashville doesn't get shots on net during extended zone time, I think Bridgestone Arena is going to have a vibe. And I'm not sure it's going to be a vibe that's going to feel super polite tomorrow night. And I really hope to see Nashville come out and get on it because if they can get this fan base feeling even slightly positive, that's going to go a long way. If they can't, #awkward.
Minka, your thoughts?
Minka
I think,
agrees with me 100%.
yeah,
Upper management has stepped in to make sure we don't swear.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think that you know, it's interesting because I feel like, and let me figure out the way to say this without offending anyone, which I don't know why I said that because that's impossible.
Virtually, yes.
Sometimes I feel like the crowds who are present in person at Bridgestone Arena are not necessarily illustrative of the Predators fan base. And what I mean by that is you get a lot of tourists, a lot of people who are just there because it's something to do. They're there for, for a good time. And again, like the more avid fans, the frustrated fans, not saying they're not there at the arena, but I think that they are outnumbered by that sort of,
We're just happy
casual
to be
fan,
here vibe. Yeah.
like the casual fan crowd. I think the non-casual, the very serious fans, I think they're there, but I don't know that they'll be able to put out as much of that vibe as I think people think there will be. Like there's a reason that this building is so hard to play in when the team is winning, because everyone shows up and it's fun to cheer for a winning team. But if the team's not winning, then people just show up and they're not necessarily going to show up and boo the team or, boo the manager or boo the coach. They're just going to show up and just be there in a market like this. And so, maybe I'm wrong, but that's kind of, I think it'll just be a very vanilla
Quiet
atmosphere. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. It was very quiet at the last home game I covered.
It was
very quiet. So we'll see what happens. Real quick, Emma, if Nashville loses, does Bruno have a job? Yes or no? Or just give me a percentage because sure is the correct answer. What do you say the odds are Andrew Brunette loses his job if the Predators lose to Calgary at home tonight?
I don't know. I guess 50-50 sounds like a cop out, but I think that's where you got to put it. That's the percentage version of sure is 50%. Sure. Either way. I don't know. I mean, again, me personally wouldn't, I think he'll still have a job probably, but I won't be surprised if he doesn't. I won't be completely shocked.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I think everybody is waiting for the shoe to drop. I think everybody feels like the shoe is going to drop if they lose tonight to Calgary. We're going to have to wait and see. I'm with you. 50-50. Sure. We'll see. Of course, we will be back tomorrow to recap whatever happens tonight in the game against the Calgary Flames and talk some more about whether the team's performance help or hurt their coach's future with the franchise. So be sure to tune in tomorrow for that episode as well. Emma, before we sign off, where can everyone find you and your work?
You can find me at Emma_Lingen on Twitter and Instagram, and you can find my work at the Hockey News.
And you can find my work with Penalty Box Radio. You can find me on social media at @AnnK_Mama on Ice. That's going to do it for this game day episode of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks again for making us your first listen of the day. We are going to be back tomorrow. We're going to recap whatever happens. So be sure to tune in then. Hope you all have a great Tuesday.